Today's podcast is brought to you by Audible. Get a free audiobook download and a free 30-day trial when you visit www.audibletrial.com/teacherrecharge. Over 180,000 titles to choose from for your iPhone, Android, Kindle, or MP3 player. Just visit audibletrial.com/teacherrecharge today. The link is actually in the description. My name is Fred Kapp. I'm the host of the Teacher Recharge podcast. Am I 24? Yeah. Do I eat Frosted Flakes? Yeah. Do I still eat Cocoa Puffs? Yeah. Do I make awesome theme music? I don't know. You be the judge. Hit it.
Get up, get up, get up, get up, get up, get up. Oh, get up, get up, get up, get up, get up, get up.
Texas heading on to you. How you doing? Happy Monday. Happy start of the week. It's another week. It's another chance for you to have an extraordinary impact on your students' lives. And hopefully I can have an extraordinary impact on this ridiculous accent because it's not really my actual accent. My name's Fred Kapp. I'm the host of the Teacher Recharge podcast. And today we have not one, but two guests on the show. They are the YBNormal team. They're from California. And YBNormal is a youth mentor or empowerment speaking and community outreach organization with the goal of inspiring and empowering troubled and underprivileged youth to strive for greatness and find a different path from social norms. Why be normal when you could be extraordinary? This is a pretty good interview. I think you're going to enjoy it. So without further ado, let's get it poppin'. For the first time ever, we have two guests on the podcast. We got Dontay and we got Logan, the YBNormal team. How in the heck are you today?
Fred, what's up, man? How you doing?
You know, I'm doing well. I'm going to be 100% honest with my listeners. I've already gotten into an interview, and then I looked down, and guess what? People make mistakes. I looked down, I hadn't pressed record yet. So that... These guys are being fantastic and very understanding guests, so I really appreciate it. Anyways, they're part of YBNormal. YBNormal is well, you know what? I'm going to let them explain it. It's a speaking, empowering, everything kind of business. Just what is YBNormal?
So YBNormal is an organization that serves all over the U.S., and we do that through a variety of metrics such as empowerment speaking, which a lot of people call motivational speaking, curriculum development, as well as mentoring and life coaching. And so that's pretty much the generic basics of it all. That's in its simplest form. Now, that could be on a small scale or it can be on a very large scale.
So you go all the way from like big groups all the way to one-on-one personal kind of coaching stuff.
Correct.
And is that with all ages, or do you like just speak to schools and life coach, adults? Like, how does that work?
So we do elementary kids, middle school, high school, young adults, sports teams. Myself personally, I've actually already spoke to a few sales teams and small businesses as well.
Awesome. Well, by the way, that's Dontay speaking. So the other voice you'll hear is Logan. So I just kind of wanted to get that straight since our listeners can't see it. But that's really cool. That's a very interesting thing. So you said some sports teams. Give me an example of that. So is this like before games? Is this like just stopping in out of practice? How does that work?
So we've spoken to community college sports teams. We've spoken to college sports teams. We've spoken to high school teams, middle school teams, AAU programs, national ranked AAU programs, and they'll have us come in, like last year, one team had us come in before a sub-state game. Like they went to a sub-state game, had me come in, speak. They won the sub-state game and they went to state. So they do it that way. They'll have us come in at a practice, maybe, say, hey, can you come in on this date? This is a light practice for us. You can come in, speak to the team, and these are the topics that we'd like for you to touch on, or these are some of the things that we're struggling with. And me or Dontay will create a speech around that, but then also be able to tell our story by putting that piece in there as well. So that's how that works.
That's really cool. So it's like your presentations, your curriculum, all of that stuff is really personalized to the group you're speaking to, yes?
The two curriculums that we created are we teach life skills, soft skills, social development. We also teach effective communication, as well as daily habits, self-esteem, and confidence. Discovering your it is before the step of finding your why, because a lot of people have a why for what they do, but they don't have an it on why they're doing it. Does that make sense?
Right, definitely.
So
You said something there that I just want to ask about because I don't think I've ever heard of it. What is soft skills?
So soft skills can be, for example, we have a mentoring group with one of our schools that's our client. And we have one young man that is very, very good with his hands. And he's only in the 5th grade. So this young man can change a tire. He can change your oil. He can do any type of mechanic work you need when it comes to a car. And he's only in the 5th grade.
Yeah, that's crazy.
So what we're doing, because he doesn't really like school. I mean, just transparent moment. He doesn't really like school at all. And we're tapping into what his strength is. His strength is his hands. So he wants to possibly, one day own his own mechanic shop. So we give him the resources and tools that he needs to be able to work on his hands. One of the schools that we have, they have like different clubs after school. And so he's able to work on cars and things of that nature. And so we teach those soft skills on how to effectively communicate, because you get some kids that are in school and they are class clowns, they're acting up and things of that nature. And so trying to get them to communicate effectively without having to be a class clown or trying to act out or cuss the teacher out or give the teacher a hard time and things of that.
Right. Awesome. That's really interesting. Like I said, I've never heard of that before, and that makes a lot of sense. So that's really awesome. But with that said, this podcast is all about teachers starting their week off with positivity, motivation, strategies, anything that they need to get through that week. So one of the first questions I always like to ask is, how are you starting your week off?
Well, I think the first thing it is, we like to speak things into existence. So the first thing would be is simply starting out with a daily affirmation, and whatever that might be for you. I feel like you should start that on a Sunday, or that could possibly be on a Monday during that morning.
Sweet. So like you're talking about like affirmations. What would be an example of one of those?
So an example of an affirmation would be saying positive things like, I am blank. I am phenomenal. I am amazing. My memory is sharp. I love to learn. I believe in my ability to learn. Like, those are affirmations. And, specifically the reason why I said those is because those are the ones that my kids do. If you want to change the world, you first got to start it. And so, my kids, my family, shout out to the Taylor gang. My family, they are my guinea pigs. So any like testing or anything that I want to try out, I try it on them first. So my kids, they have some confidence issues. They have some self-esteem issues and things of that nature. And we do affirmations every day before we go to school. And so I just build them up. And we've been doing that for a year. And like, you can tell the difference in the way that they talk. You can tell the difference in the way that they walk. You can tell the difference in the way that they conduct themselves when they're in the classroom, when they're meeting people and things of that nature. So, we believe in doing affirmations, but when you do the affirmation, you got to put some type of action behind it. You can't just say, oh, my memory is sharp, I love to learn, but then you're not trying to learn, or you're not trying to implement the words that you said. So those are some of the things and what we do.
Dude, that is so cool. And one of the things that I kind of wanted to relay is it kind of goes along the same lines of that. So I'm still playing soccer for like this semi-professional team here in Wichita, and it's an indoor team. And a lot of the players on the team are ex-professionals. Like they're fresh off the boat out of the professional soccer game. And for the longest time, it was so hard for me to put myself up against them and actually feel like I should be on the team, because I would look at them and think, oh, they're so good. Like, why am I here? I have to try and play like them. And I'm not saying they're not good. They're very talented players. But what that was doing was that was pushing myself so down that when I would go play, I wouldn't play up to par. So I would be that much worse than them. I wouldn't be playing, I guess, my best soccer. So I started listening to this other podcast that I'll recommend. Why not? It's called the Sports Motivation Podcast, and it's with this ex-NFL player. And what he likes to do is he likes to lay down a sick like trap beat and then just like rap over it, a couple phrases for a day. And like the first one I listened to, for example, he just rapped for like 4 minutes. He would just like say, I like what I see. I like what I see. I look in the mirror. I like what I see. And he like tells you to do that with him and stuff. And it sounds so silly. And to be honest, it kind of is. But in the game, I make a mistake or I find myself thinking to myself like, oh man, like I'm not good enough for that. Like the first thing that comes into my mind is that beat because I associate it with it. And then the whole time I'm just thinking, oh, well, I like what I see. I like what I see. So even when I make a mistake, it's like, oh, well, like whatever. I like who I am. So it really doesn't really matter what is going to try and bring me down. You can't bring me down. So I really think you got something there. Those affirmations are so important. Even though you might feel silly doing them, they're so, so important.
Absolutely. They've helped me tremendously because I grew up, I had self-esteem issues. I had lack of confidence growing up and things of that nature. I made 3 attempts to commit suicide before I was 18. Yeah. And that was because I didn't know who I was. I didn't have the confidence. I didn't really believe in myself like I say I did. And so just building myself up, like I looked in the mirror and I would have to build myself up. And literally it took me a minute to get to that point, but I just stayed consistent. Yeah. I believe it takes 21 days to create a habit. And so I would do it for probably like 3 or 4 days and then stop. And then start back over, do it again for like 2 days and then stop. Start again and go for like 10 days and then stop. And I kept going and kept going no matter what. Even if I stopped, I was like, okay, I got to start over and do it again. And so I just started believing in myself and I just started saying these affirmations and just building myself up.
Yeah, sweet. That is so cool. Just moving on a little bit though, like right before the break, I just want to ask, what is something, because everybody has failures. No matter who you are, you have failures. So what is something that you failed at and how did you react to that?
I think failure, first off, is something in your mind because everybody has society as, oh, I failed at this or I failed at my job. First thing I want to say is I don't think failure can't really put a actual circumstance where you actually fail. I think mentally you can fail, but I don't think an actual action you can fail. Mm-hmm. Whether that be I lose my job or whatever. I think mentally, if you're at a positive state in your mind, then you didn't fail.
Right.
That's the first thing. But for me, I think the first time that I mentally was drained was when I first went off to college and I was an all-state basketball player, but I was walking on as a basketball player. And so we're going through drills, going through everything. And when I realized I wasn't a commodity, then I felt like I failed. And so my grade slipped. I was on the verge of being kicked out of school, academic probation, failed a drug test. And all that was simply because I didn't think I belonged.
Right.
And in reality, all it was mentally I was weak and I wanted somebody to make an excuse for me, not realizing that everything that I have on my plate, everything I'm doing, taking care of my mom, taking care of my brother while being in school was simply, I need to be stronger for myself.
Right.
And it's something that I could do all along. And once I realized that, I was able to overcome that, earn a scholarship, graduate, whatever.
Yeah.
But I think mentally, we always put a roadblock in our heads and say, well, based on society, I failed.
That perspective is something that I honestly haven't heard anyone come on this podcast and say yet, which I think it's so huge. One of the reasons why I asked that question is, I don't want the people that come on my podcast to come off as people that aren't people, because everybody makes mistakes. Everybody has shortcomings, but to tackle those shortcomings with that attitude is so big because like you said, and I love that perspective, is like, you don't necessarily fail if you fail, right? Like it's all up here. It's all up, and I'm pointing at my head on a podcast because everybody can see that, right? Oh my gosh. Anyway, but it's all mental. It's one of those things. If you look at a failure like a failure, then it is a failure. But if you look at it as an opportunity, then it's an opportunity. So I really, really enjoy that perspective, and I appreciate you bringing that perspective to the show. Real quick, we are going to take a short break. Thank a sponsor. We will be right back. Today we have a brand new sponsor on the show. It is my very own website where I just launched a new shop. So if you go to fredmotivates.com and you click on the shop tab, you'll have access to the Acknowledge Someone tee, the Acknowledge Someone baseball tee, and the Table of Love logo mug. Now, acknowledgement is becoming increasingly important in schools, workplaces, and organizations around the country. I think we can all agree with that. Simply acknowledging someone can make an amazing difference in their day or life. Now, each purchase of anything on this page helps me spread my message of acknowledgement and acceptance to more schools around the nation and have a gigantic impact. Now, I do have an offer for you. If you buy anything on the page, doesn't matter how many things, you can use the code TEACHERRECHARGE in all caps, TEACHERRECHARGE. That is code TEACHERRECHARGE at checkout to get 10% off your entire order. That is code TEACHERRECHARGE at checkout at fredmotivates.com/shop. Join the movement, lead by example. Back to the show. And we are back with the YBNormal team, Logan and Dontay, and it is my favorite time of the week, favorite time of the show. It is story time. Now, when I bring on guests, I give them the floor to tell a story, whatever they want to say. It could be funny, it could be motivational, it could be sad, it could be downright depressing, whatever they want to say. The floor is theirs. So, you know what? Honestly, if both of you wanted to tell a story, no big deal. Whatever you want, the floor is yours. Take it away.
This story I'm going to talk about is about a kid. They say he's a tier 3 kid. In reality, he's not a tier 3 kid. He's just a kid that's misunderstood and wasn't given the proper resources. First client back in August was giving us the worst of the worst with kids. And this kid was on a kindergarten reading level, very disrespectful, very scary to a lot of adults. And simply, I would say he had the school in a complete chaos because he's a ringleader. The kids love him, but the teachers hate him.
Right.
Any administrator hated him. And so we got around this kid and we gave this kid love. And the first thing we did was we were just transparent with this kid, telling him basically, no one really cares about you. They let you do what you want to do because nobody cared. And so after about a week, this kid breaks down. We found out what's going on at home. He doesn't have a father. Mom is on drugs and things of that nature. And we simply figure out that this kid needs love. Mm-hmm. We start to show this kid love, and this kid literally starts to change and reform in less than 60 days.
Yeah.
He bumps up 2 reading levels. He goes from kindergarten to 3rd grade. Even though he's a 5th grader, he's more respectful. He's holding himself accountable. He's still making mistakes because he has to go home to that reality, but it's literally been a makeover. And that kid has a chance. The scary part about it is that kid still might not pan out, but that kid has made the most change, and he has something to look forward to.
Definitely. And hopefully he's seeing that change that he's made too. I mean, obviously, they sound like pretty big changes here. And I feel like that can really pump up. How old did you say he was? He was in 5th grade, yeah?
Yeah, he's 10 years old.
Man, that is amazing. That is like beautiful. I love it. What a story. And you guys went in there like as YBNormal and
Correct.
Took this on. Man, that is great. And that's why we bring people like you on the show for stories like that. Logan, do you have a story?
Yeah, so I'll first say this. Don't let people define who you can be. Mm-hmm. My thing is there's this farmer that had some eggs, and one was an eagle egg. And over time, the eggs would hatch and the other eggs would be chickens.
Right.
And so, of course, we know they're both birds. And so what happened is that over time, the more the eggs started to hatch, the eagle egg would get ready to hatch. And so eventually what happened is that all the eggs hatched, including the eagle egg, and the eagle was doing everything that the chickens were doing. Mm-hmm. And the chickens were picking for food. They were digging in dirt and things of that nature. Well, the eagle followed suit and did the same thing.
Right.
If they hopped around, the eagle hopped around. If the chickens decided to go lay up under somewhere, then the eagle would do the same thing. And so one day the eagle seen another bird that looked like him in the sky. Mm-hmm. And the eagle said to his friends and said, "Hey, who is that in the sky? Who is that? What is he doing?" The chickens told him, "Oh man, he's nobody. He's not doing anything. Don't worry about him." But they say curiosity kills the cat. And so the eagle got curious to find out who was that. And it had to realize and understand that, okay, this is somebody that is like me. So one day the eagle decided to venture off, do his own thing. And eventually he seen that the eagle was who he was. And eventually he started to fly. Now, here's the thing is that a lot of times what happens is that we believe at YBNormal, iron sharpens iron. So a lot of times what happens with individuals is that they get around other people and they start to take those characteristics of negativity that those people have.
Definitely.
So the eagle didn't know that it can fly. Why? Because it was round chickens. Chickens can't fly.
Right.
They had now. Don't get me wrong. They have wings, but they can't fly. They can't move like an eagle can move.
Right. Yeah.
So I tell people, be an eagle, and if you're gonna be an eagle, then what you need to do is that you need to do what eagles do, and that's fly. You can't be an eagle hanging around pigeons. You can't be an eagle hanging around turkeys. You can't be an eagle hanging around chickens and trying to do what turkeys and pigeons and chickens are meant to do, but then you're saying that you're an eagle. It doesn't work like that. So I tell people and what we do and everything, and just closing is, don't be like everybody else. Be yourself.
Yeah, definitely. So important. And I love that. I honestly don't know if I've ever had someone come on and tell a story like that, where it wasn't like a personal story, but it instead had a moral kind of push there, which is awesome. I love that perspective because we get both today, which is such a treat. I love it. And the whole thought there is just, I mean, to kind of tie this in to teachers and to our audience, and what they can take from this is, look, it's never too late. You don't have to be normal either. You can be an eagle. You can push. You can go above and beyond. And those students, to go back to Dontay's story, those students that are challenging, those students that are disruptive and that maybe sometimes come off as rude, sometimes those students just need some love. Sometimes they just need that someone to push them and someone to care about them. So great stuff today. Before we get off of the interview, where can people find you?
So people can find us at YBNormal, and that's the letter Y. That's the letter Y, letter B, and then normal with a question mark. And that's on all social media outlets. That's YouTube, that's Twitter, that's Instagram, that's Facebook. And then our website is www.ybnormal.co. And you can reach out to us on any of our social media platforms, and we'll be more than happy to answer any questions or anything that people may have.
Awesome, sweet. And we will put links to all of those things in the description. Hey, thank you guys for coming on. It was a fantastic episode. If you or anyone you know would be perfect for this podcast, go ahead, email me, teacherrechargepodcast@gmail.com. Once again, that is teacherrechargepodcast@gmail.com. If you would like, you can go and find out more about what I speak about when I go to schools. It's called the Love and Success Approach to Leadership. You can go to fredmotivates.com to find out more about that. Well, hey, Dontay, hey, Logan, thank you so much for coming. I had a blast. This was a great interview. I appreciate it.
No problem.
Hey, man. Thank you, man.
All
Appreciate you. Thank you for the opportunity.
We're almost there. We're almost at the end of the show. But first, the weekly challenge. Now, every week I give you a challenge based on the interview for that week that will kind of propel you forward and give you something to move toward during the week. Now, Dontay and Logan both were adamant about being self-affirming people to really keep their spirits up as they go into the week and go into every day. So my challenge to you this week is to look in the mirror when you wake up and say something great about yourselves, like, I am great, or I can do this, or I have got this. I'm the greatest teacher ever to live. I want to hear how it goes. Just email me, teacherrechargepodcast@gmail.com. I hope you have a fantastic week. I hope you make a gigantic impact. And until next Monday, much love.